What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to this edition of Tricks of the Month Juggler Profiles. It's been a long time coming. I've missed you all. I'm glad to be back. Today, we're going to be talking with Asaf Mor. Asaf Mor is a juggler from France, and we're excited to hear about him. So, Asaf, thanks for being with us. And tell us a
Thank
little
you.
bit about how you started juggling.
So I started in Israel when I was about 12 in 2003. We just had these classes in school where you could pick different sports-related things. So we had like football, basketball, yoga, this sort of thing, frisbee, and juggling was a part of that, and it seemed cool at the time. And it started as a hobby and quickly became an obsession. Then yeah, I wasn't very good at the beginning. It took me a while.
So this was back in high school, you said?
Not even. It was in middle school
Oh, okay.
back then.
And you started in middle school. You weren't very good. Why did you get good? What was the tipping point of deciding that you wanted to be better at it?
Yeah, I just took. I liked it. It's just that it took me a while to get the basics, but then. Yeah, going to conventions, meeting people, especially the Israeli convention has a lot of really good artists. Usually we have a very similar gala to EJC,
Mm-hmm.
like similar artist or definitely the same level. So like going there the first time and seeing how far juggling can go was definitely one of the things that made me go, yes, this is what I want to do. I want to be that good.
That's great. Do you ever get back to Israel for juggling events nowadays?
Yeah, I go pretty often, about twice or three times a year,
Okay, cool.
something like that. I try to go mainly for the Israeli convention, but if I get booked for work over there, I go.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Tell me what you're most excited about when it comes to juggling right now.
Uh, yeah, but I'm part of the reason why I moved to France was that here we have it's much more established as an art form, and there's a lot of circus and juggling that's being performed in theaters. So it's become more of a means of expression rather than just a display of tricks. And I think it's quite new. It's maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 years. I might not be precise,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, it's quite new, and I think that's very exciting, and uh, it's developing very quickly, and like every juggler has his own style and his own language
Mm-hmm.
in a way.
Okay, so when you're juggling or you're putting on a performance, what are some things that you're trying to communicate to the audience? How are you trying to express yourself?
Really, for me, it depends on the show, or like on what my act is about.
Mm-hmm.
My current act. I actually wrote it starting from things people told me about my juggling and like things I focus on. So the two main things I work on is body tricks, which a lot of people told me are like kind of violent and really fast. And then so my act is divided into manipulations, which are all really clean and straight. And then I try to make something sort of a transformation between that to the really quick, violent juggling.
Mm.
So then I ended up making a story about that, being like some guy who's like that's his day job and he's fucking sick of
Okay.
it. But yeah, I do really enjoy starting from the juggling and thinking what it can tell.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's more, for me at least, that's more coherent.
Mm-hmm.
But I think both work. And then now when I'm trying to expand that, it's also kind of narrowing down what I need to work on if I want to make things that fit within that storyline.
Okay.
So yeah.
It reminds me a little bit of music. You know, you have like different movements of music, especially when you're talking about classical music. You might have a movement about like, you know, it might be called something like the tide or something, and it kind of has this expression of an ocean, lapping up against the shore. Does music at all play into when you're making these shows?
Definitely. I work a lot with trying to, like, even before I know what I want the show to be about, I usually find a music that I like, and there is really that moment where I listen to the song and say that this is going to be in my next act.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Yeah, there's sometimes I find it harder to write an act first and then say what music fits to this.
Mm-hmm.
That tends to take ages, whereas sometimes I'll just be listening to music,
Yeah.
and yeah, there would be a song that makes you go, "Fuck yeah!"
That's awesome.
This one.
How would you say that juggling has affected your life overall so far?
In a lot of ways. Mainly, I think it made me travel so much more than I probably would have by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just being able. It made me friends all around the world. Like, I don't know if I'd know people from as many countries,
Mm-hmm.
like, as I do right now.
Totally. Cool. How would you? Normally ask what the juggling scene or the juggling culture is like in the person's home country, but you kind of have two countries, so maybe you can tell us some differences between juggling in Israel and juggling in France.
Yeah, I think juggling in Israel is a bit. It's very well developed. There are some really good jugglers. To name drop a few, Ofix Near recently beat the 7-ball world record. There's a lot more. I'm not gonna go into the list, but Neta is an AIO, is a very good Belgian company. Lots of really good jugglers.
Mm-hmm.
But I think for me the main difference is that in France it's really established as an art form that's worthy of being in a theater. Like, you don't see that much in Israel. Like, what we do get recently, and even that is from maybe 5 years ago, is the big shows like Cirque du Soleil, Seven Fingers, Cirque was.
Mm-hmm.
So like those big, neoclassical shows, as
Right.
some people call it, which is a step forward. Before we didn't have anything, and we just had our own shows, and everyone had like all the professional artists had like a street show and a children's show and like
Right.
these sort of things. But yeah, it's nice that we're starting to move towards that, and we're starting to have we have a couple of circus festivals that bring in mainly European circus productions that have more of a storyline to them, and more contemporary circus is starting to make its way there.
Yep.
But it's still quite new.
And that's
Whereas
the
here,
larger, like, it's a circus, performance, so it's got way more facets than just like strictly juggling or more object manipulation type stuff. It's got also acrobatics and
yeah.
Would you say that, like, in France, it would be normal for an everyday person to go to a show that was like strictly juggling because of the way that it is combined with art?
Yeah, there are definitely, in a way, it's like someone would go to the cinema. It's if people who are into theater would definitely, like, not all of them, of course, is so.
Yep. What is your favorite prop to use, or what do you use the most?
At the moment, I'm mainly doing clubs. I also do a lot of balls recently. I started out with poi. Yeah, other than that, I have a decent level at a lot of things. Those are the three that I work on the most at the moment.
And so, do those three props, do they interact with each other at all, or what you learn from one prop affect another prop that you use?
It's probably my main method of research. I try and if I find a trick I like with clubs. I would try to do it with balls or vice versa. Also, having started with poi when I started clubs, it was like there were a lot of things I couldn't do with poi before, like just holding them upright, which is very simple with clubs, but with poi it's like not really possible. So I was really trying to do things that are absolutely impossible with poi when I started out with clubs. But yeah, there's definitely, I try to draw influence from as many things as possible. So I do a lot of things in club manipulation that are making angles, and that's for me inspired from tutting. Yeah, or a lot of things inspired from dance or balls or staff or contact juggling, and yeah.
Where do you get your props?
Clubs I use Henry's, balls are from Play. My poi are from a shop in Israel named Speavers.
You were talking about how when you juggle, you're trying to express something, and you think that's something great about the direction juggling is going. In your Tricks of the Month video, what were you trying to communicate, or what were you trying to express in that video?
Yeah, it was a bit last minute, that video, so I didn't really have time to plan ahead, but it was basically what I work on in general, which is trying to combine movement with juggling. And that video specifically, I think, had a lot of things I did with 4 clubs, because at the time I didn't have it in any of my acts, and I felt like putting it somewhere.
Okay. Okay, and where do you want to take your juggling in the future?
At the moment, I'm working on a full-length show, probably planned as a street show for the moment, a 30-minute show, something like that. Yeah, I'm definitely planning to stay in France and start performing, like work my way towards performing in theaters and circus festivals. But yeah, at the moment it's mainly about making a show that tells a story, uses what I've been working on, and kind of push the limits of that.
Sweet. If people want to check you out, where can they find your stuff?
My website is asafcircus.com, or YouTube, just YouTube Asaf Mor, and you'll find the rest of it. But yeah, my website has all of my upcoming gigs and things like that, so if people want to watch it live, that's a good place to have a look.
Great. We will check it out. We'll put a link in the video description. And thanks everybody else for watching in. Asaf, thanks again for being with us.
Thank you.
Don't forget to check out my channel, Everyday Juggler, for more interviews and highlight reels most weeks. Until next time, keep on juggling.